Hi everyone, this is Group 1, Sushant, Vijay, Courtney and Kyle. Our topic for the data visualization course final project presentation is crime in America's largest cities. So for this project we have taken a dataset that has crime levels plotted for all years after 1975. This data has been taken from US police jurisdictions with a population of 250,000 or more. So let's get started. So this is our first story point that you can see here. So what you can immediately see is there are some small circles and there are some large circles. The size of the circles on this story point basically denotes the number of violent crimes that have taken place each year in that city. There are also some circles that are dark and some that are light. The darkness would basically suggest the what is the per capita rate of crimes in that city. So although the total number of crimes is more in New York, um, the highest per capita rate of crime would be in places like Atlanta or St. Louis or maybe Miami down over here. So moving on to the next story point. Okay, so this is basically an animation of how crime levels have changed since 1975. So let us go ahead and play this animation once. What we can see here is in the late 1970s, crime levels were actually decreasing before increasing again in the 1980s and still increasing till they reached their peak of somewhere around 1991, 92. And then we have things like increased incarceration in and also more policing, and that brings crime levels down. Moving to the last decade, what we are seeing is a further decrease in crime. So that was how crime has progressed over the last 50 years or so, or maybe 40 years or so, sorry. Moving on to the next story point. This is a dashboard for which cities are worst with regards to three particular kinds of crimes: murders, rapes, and robberies. So if you see the overall chart, Atlanta is the worst, uh, followed in close second by Miami and St. Louis. If you take murders specifically, we can see New Orleans is leading with the highest number of murders, followed by Detroit. And Detroit has actually seen an increase in murders, as you can see here. Moving into robberies, there has been a sharp decline in robberies since the last decade, as we can see here, and in pretty much all of these charts, the orange bar, which signifies the years from 1985 to 1994, that would be the time when the maximum number of violent crimes took place. Now we are going to detail about the homicides. So this is just a chart that you saw in the last dashboard, and this is an animation plotting the change of crime levels over time. So let us go ahead and play this. Let's speed it up too, so that we can make this intro shorter. Okay. So you see there have been peaks. For example, Houston turned red a couple of times. So that just signifies the crime levels increasing and decreasing for that particular region. We've done the same things for rape. I won't be playing this again. So I guess the numbers tell a similar story as with the homicides. So the orange bars here, signifying years from 1985 to 94, have the maximum instances of rape as well. And what we can also see is rape is actually increasing in Cincinnati while it's decreasing in the rest of the top 10. Moving on to robberies. The robberies here also follow a similar trend to different crimes. What we are seeing here is New York is number one with the most robberies, followed by Miami, which is followed by Detroit. There have been some cities like Cleveland and Oakland which are actually seeing an increase in robberies. Let us now look at the assaults for since 1975. Again, there has been a sharp decrease in most cities, but some places like Detroit have actually seen an increase in the number of assaults. Let us have a closer look at the last 10 years. What we can see here is most of these bars are very light, which is very good, which basically means the total number of crimes in that city is quite less. What sticks out here is New York City, where the number of violent crimes is large, but given the huge size of New York City, it can probably be explained by that. So the per capita crimes are still just 6,134, which is really good. If you just remember in the first story point, we saw a per capita crime rate of more than 90,000 for some of the cities. So, in contrast to that, the rates that we are seeing today are really good. Perhaps somewhere the police and other law enforcement agencies need improvement is in the rape count, which has actually increased over the past decades, and every year we are seeing a steady increase in the number of rapes. So, something that we can learn from this visualization is the crime levels are overall decreasing very rapidly, but for some crimes like rape, they are actually increasing, and which is something that needs to be tackled by the law enforcement agencies using data like where they're happening, how often they're happening, who the perpetrators are, etc. Thank you.